Mike Lang. I am a former teacher. I just retired from teaching actually in October in Las Vegas. So you may have seen Las Vegas in movies maybe, or heard about Las Vegas. A lot of casinos, lots of heat. Yeah, it's a interesting place to work. I've been teaching, or I taught for 18 years. I taught everything from just elementary school and whatnot to technology. I've taught adults. I've traveled quite a bit all over the world and stuff. I've taught in Taiwan. I lived in Spain. So it's been teaching has been a very, very cool profession, and hopefully quite a few of you will go into teaching and making sure that students get the same opportunities that you were given.
Yeah, some of my students are going to opt the education field when they grow up. I think you can come to know about their future ambitions when they interact with you. So,
Excellent.
what is your current position? I mean, what are you doing? You have just told that you have got retirement from the previous position.
So right now, what I do is I go in and I help teachers. So that was the reason why I was offered a position to go in and help recruit, help retain, help prepare teachers in a way that's more of a 21st century way, right? So more of the technology integration, more of collaborative, so making sure that students are working together to do things. Trying to solve some problems here with the American education system in particular. Again, we have a teacher shortage in our country. So how do we find teachers that are going to be able to do it? What other solutions could there be perhaps in order to figure out how we can do more with less teachers, perhaps. So it's a lot of conversing with people, talking to students. Hey, as a kid, what kind of things would you like to do? What kind of things do you want to be when you grow up? What are things that are problems with school that you have? And kind of talking to students as well and saying, okay, oh, you know what, that may be very interesting. Let's go and see if we can change parts of the system in order to make sure that our students are more comfortable as well.
So that's cool. Mike, before I let my students to ask you some questions, so I have one question from my side. So how important it is for every teacher living across the globe to update himself with the technology, with the latest technology? As you know that we are living in a technology world. How important it is for a teacher living in India, in a village, and a teacher living in Africa, and a teacher living in a remote part of the world, how important it is to update ourselves to cope up with this modern technology?
So that's a tough question. It's a very tough question, because I've always said technology is a tool. All right, it's a tool, and like any other tool, having it available is important. However, I think through my career, the biggest thing that I've seen as a characteristic of those who are successful is being able to solve problems, right? If you have the ability to solve a problem, look at something and come up with the steps to find something, you're going to stumble into a technology or stumble into an idea or stumble into a person who's going to help you on that way. But if you have a very difficult if you have difficulties looking at problems and coming up with steps to find solutions, it doesn't matter what kind of technology you have, right? If you don't have that strategy, you don't have that mindset, you don't have that will, then suddenly you can have the fastest computer, you can have the best internet. Again, here in the States, here, Europe, etc. There are plenty of people that have internet, and there are plenty of people who can't solve problems. So while I think technology helps, and while I think access to things helps, I think people who are problem solvers are successful no matter what they have or what they don't have at that point, because they're going to find ways to come up with ways around things that they perhaps don't have immediately.
Oh, that's very impressive. Lohita, I would like to start with you. And here is a young, talented technology teacher from USA. So you can ask any question that you would like to ask. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. I am Lohita Girija. I am in 9th grade. I am 14 years old. My hobbies are reading books, playing games, watching TV, and dancing. My future ambition is to become an English teacher. Can I ask one question, sir?
Yes, of course.
What are the main challenges for using technology in education?
Main challenges. That's a hard question. You guys have hard questions first thing in the morning. I think that the main challenge to using technology is being tricked into thinking that it's the solution for things by itself, right? So I think that many times somebody will get a cell phone or like a camera or something, and suddenly I've never taken a photography class in my life. Let me take the camera and suddenly I'm a photographer. Well, no, it's a little bit more difficult than that, right? I've never done any coding ever. Like I've never, let me get a computer. I'm going to buy the most expensive computer, and then I'm going to, no, that's not how it works, right? There's some skill that comes along with things. And one of the coolest things I've ever learned is not to use my iPhone camera, but to use an old school camera that you have to go develop the film, because you learn the skill. All the old ways aren't bad. I think sometimes we get that, oh yeah, you know, the technology is the newest, coolest thing. So sometimes having the difficulty is having students who really want to go and say, I want to use the iPad or this or that, and saying, you know, okay, first let's come up with a plan. Let's take a pencil and some paper, and let's come up with a plan to solve the problem. And then we can go into, now that we have this plan, now we know what we're going to do with the iPad. Not that we're getting frustrated trying to use the iPad because we didn't have a plan to begin with. So I think one of the challenges, I guess, to using technology in education is skipping steps, right? I think it's always important to converse with people. It's always important to write things down. It's always important to think about what the problem that you're trying to solve first, and then saying, okay, cool, these are the tools I'm going to need to solve that problem, rather than just saying, here's my iPhone, go. I think that's one of the things that kind of plague in education, in my opinion. Great question. I appreciate it.
So Mike, recently I have been to your country and I observed middle class students and how they took the examinations using the Chromebooks and how they learned the lessons using the Chromebook. So in my point of view, I observed that most of the students, their handwriting skills are very poor because of depending too much on the Chromebook, because they don't have the time to write on a piece of paper. So they always use the Chromebooks. So don't you think that this is the technology is ruining their opportunities, or maybe improving their handwriting skills? So taking away their handwriting skills in one another perspective.
I think that's definitely a possibility, but I also think that one of the things, at least in the States, and I'll say this is the same in Taiwan, because I taught in Taiwan as well. I taught in Taiwan in 2007. So this is before one-to-one and iPads all over the place and stuff. This is back where it was still paper and pencil. And one of the things that is unfair about the previous way that we did school, at least in the States, is if you are a student who had a physical handicap where you couldn't write, right? Or you had a handicap in which you couldn't see or you couldn't hear, it's not a very equitable experience for you to go sit in a classroom with students who perhaps a little bit more able-bodied than you are, right? So I think that that's where another way where technology benefits us is there are students who have access to high quality tier 1 instruction because of the fact that the iPad or the Chromebook or whatever can read to them, etc. Are there going to be some drawbacks? I think the handwriting thing, like you said before, yeah, handwriting is one of those drawbacks. And this is one of the reasons why, even as a technology instructor, students were required to bring notebooks into the class with a pencil or a pen. hey, we're going to draw, we're going to, come up with a plan, you're going to write things, you're going to doodle, you're going to sketch. I think that's still an important thing because there's still there's still magic in taking your pencil, taking your brain and putting something on paper and going back and forth with it. There's still some, I don't know what the science is behind it, but I think that's still a super important skill.
Yeah, that's... Bhagyasri, do you have any question?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. My name is Bhagyasri. Now I'm studying 9th grade. My hobbies are reading books and playing games. My future ambition is to become a doctor. Shall I ask one question, sir?
Of course, of course.
How technology is helping us in education?
How does technology help you in education? So I think the biggest part Bhagyasri of technology just is giving us abilities to do things we couldn't do by ourselves. It's like any other tool, right? So let's go very, very simple. Let's go to a pencil. A pencil lets you write. You can't write by yourself. You got to have a pencil or pen or something, right? So the tool gives me an ability I didn't have before. If I'm a farmer and I don't have hoes and rakes and seeds, I can't grow food, right? Those tools are necessary for me to do those things. Technology is necessary for me to go in and say, okay, in this next iteration of the world, I can't talk to you all in India if we don't have Zoom, right? This is not a thing. I would have to write a letter or something. It would take, a few weeks or a month or something to get to you. And you would go send it back and it would be like this long conversation. So I think technology is important because it gives us the ability to think about problems in a different way. So again, I want to come and talk to a class in India. How could I do that? I could do a letter, I could walk, I could catch a plane. A convenient way to do this now is Zoom, right? Or a student of mine wants to tell a story, and you guys probably tell stories all the time. Great, I can go find my friend, I can tell a story. You know what? I could go make a movie. That's another way I can tell a story, right? I can write stuff down. I can take my phone camera, my Chromebook camera, whatever camera I had, and we can act things out. Hey, here's a story. This is what happened to me yesterday. And so it gives us the ability to, again, have different dimensions to problem solving. And I like to always think about things as solving problems. And if we don't know what problem we're solving, we don't know what tool to use, right? And sometimes we overuse technology. Sometimes we don't need the technology to solve a problem. Just like, okay, cool. The easiest way to do that is just to call someone on the phone or just walk to their house and say, hey, what's the problem? Not to have a Zoom call, right? Because Zoom calls could be impersonal sometimes. If the person is right next to me, why am I having a Zoom call? The technology's there, but I can just walk over to the person's house and we can do what we need to do, right? So I think that it's always, what is the problem? Great. Let's come up with a number of tools that might have a solution. Which one of those tools is the best tool to utilize? And that's the power of technology in education. It's giving people the imagination to solve problems in different ways. I think you said you want to be a doctor. That's one of the things that doctors do, right? They go look at a patient, they say, okay, cool. These are all the options for how to treat this person. Not, we're always just going to cut their leg off, right? It's not, I cut their leg off. Every time we're going to cut it. No, I have to go and study and think about things or whatever. And there might be one tool that may work here, but not work with this other particular person. So I think that technology in the world, that's the power of technology in our world, not just in education. Great question.
Yes. Sai Surya, over to you.
Hi sir, I am Sai Surya. I am studying 7th grade. I am 12 years old. My hobbies are reading books, playing games, and watching TV. My future ambition is to become a police officer. Can I ask a question?
Of course, of course.
What is the need to incorporate technology in education?
That's the need to incorporate technology in education. So there are a lot of teachers in the United States. There were a lot of teachers when I was in Taiwan who don't believe that technology is something that needs to be accessed in order for people to be prepared. And I think at the very, to answer your question very simply, technology is needed to be incorporated in education because technology is how you use things in the real world, right? It's a real world skill. And if you go through school not having that real world skill, you're not going to get a job, right? Things are getting more technologically advanced, right? Not less. And so it's very important that as teachers, teachers are, again, still concentrating on skills, right? Still writing and thinking and things like that, but also saying, okay, great. We just thought of this really great idea. How can we show this to the world? Could we have a Zoom meeting with a teacher from another country? Could we make a movie? Could we write a song? Could we write a play? Could we do a dance? We could take this thing and record it, and then suddenly there's a conversation that can be had, right? The other important thing that's important about incorporating technology in education is just what we're doing right now, right? Being able to go to different places and say, you know what? I just learned something really cool from this person who's not from where I'm from. How can I take that idea and bring it back to where I'm from and say, there's a different way to look at this problem? That was one of the greatest things about teaching in Taiwan. I've traveled all over the world at this point. When I taught in Taiwan, I was a third-year teacher. So I taught 2 years in Mississippi, which is in the southern part of the United States. It was a very small school. And when I went to Taiwan, I had a Chinese master teacher. So I call her my mom now. And she really helped me figure out how to teach in a better way, how to be more patient with people, how to allow students more freedom, but still keep everything very structured. So that's another thing that technology has allowed us to do. And again, that's still a technology. It's an airplane. There wasn't a way that we could do that 100 years ago, right? It couldn't fly from Washington, D.C. to Taiwan and very quickly. Previously in history, human history, right? So I think that it's important because there's no way to exchange ideas as efficiently and as easily, as blogging or watching somebody looking at someone's website or Zoom call or any of these really interesting, easy ways to communicate with people. And so I think incorporating technology the way that your teacher is doing, and this is amazing, this is really cool, is giving you an opportunity to think about problems that you might face in a different way. And also to expand the number of people that you know, which is that's not a technology. It's a very important thing. The more people that you know, the more ways you can solve a problem. So we've got doctors, future doctors in here, future teachers, future business people, future cooks and chefs. The more of these people that you never know how this person's going to look at a problem that you might have and say, you know what if you look at it this way? And suddenly, oh, I got it. Yes, that's absolutely. I would not have looked at that problem like a chef. I would have looked at that problem like this other person. I was looking at it like a doctor because that's what I am. But if you look at it like a chef and you could solve the problem in a different way. And that's the other power of technology. It's leveraging relationships. And that was very important during the pandemic here, at least, when everyone was unable to go out. I met so many new people because we had to meet each other because people were lonely and you trying to figure out ways to solve problems. And then I got friends in, Denmark and friends in England and friends in France and friends in Germany that were like, hey, what do you think about how your country or your school district is handling this problem? Oh, we're doing it this way. Oh, that's interesting. We're not doing it that way. What if we took pieces of your idea and pieces of my idea and put those things together? So that is a great question. That's how I think you should be incorporating technology into education.
Yeah, that's really a great explanation also. Jagadish, over to you.
Yes. Hello, sir. My name is Jagdish. I'm studying 8th grade at JPH Seluru. My hobbies are playing games and watching TV. Can I ask you a question, sir?
Of course.
What are the 3 important roles of technology in education?
Again, guess that's some great questions. So important roles of technology in education. I think the very first one is being able to give people an imagination or use their imagination. Because when I was a kid, and some of you all may do this, I used to draw a lot. And I wasn't a great artist, I just like to draw. So comic books, those doodles, I was drawing when my teacher was talking and stuff and I was supposed to pay attention, I would be doodling and stuff and whatnot. And back in, our day, there was no internet. And that's hard to believe, but there was no internet when I was a kid. And every time I tell students that, oh, no, there was no internet. We had computers, but computers were not connected to some way to allow me to talk to someone in India, for example, right? At least efficiently. And so the things that are more in my imagination, I couldn't easily create into digital art or show other people that weren't immediately in my area. And so I think that the first thing about technology that's powerful and important, one of the big roles is saying you have an imagination, you have ideas that are popping up in here. Technology, computers, iPads, what have you, they allow you to get the things that are in your head out to the world a lot easier than it was 25, 30 years ago. The second thing is collaboration, all right? And it's second, not because it's not as important as the imagination, it's just because it's the second thing that I thought of. So collaboration is one of the superpowers that everything that's alive has, right? Whether you're looking at ants, whether you're looking at cows, chickens, dogs, all living things collaborate in some kind of way, whether it's, some kind of symbiotic relationship, whether it's a social thing or whatever. And humans, I think a lot of times, especially in the United States, they tend to want to do things by themselves because our country at least, celebrates this culture of individuals. This person's the smartest person. This person's the fastest person. This person's the richest person. Rather than saying, no one does anything by themselves, right? No one. I don't care what you do, how successful you become. There are a whole bunch of people that helped you get to where you were, right? So making sure that you use technology to collaborate with other people, whether that's, again, through Zoom calls, whether that's a Google Doc in which you're sharing with some kid that you met online that goes to school in England or something, and you're sharing ideas back and forth, whether that's watching someone's YouTube video and having a conversation in the comments about how this person solved this particular problem, that's really cool, and gaining friends that way, or social media, what have you. Collaboration is another important role of technology in the country because, in the world rather, because we're going to increasingly find that some people in some countries or some cities or some towns or some villages already have answers to problems that we're battling, right? And sometimes it's way too much energy to come up with a new solution rather than just, what's that? I've got a great friend in Sri Lanka, right, who's already figured that out. Let me go talk to them and they can just tell me, these are the steps we took to say, this is the problem you had? Yep. Oh, we had that problem like 10 years ago. This is how we solved it. Oh, great. Now I've cut the time in half, that it would take me to come up with my own solution. I've, validated an idea. And now I look really cool bringing this back to a different community and them saying, oh, this is really great. Where did you get this idea? Oh, I got it from a village in Sri Lanka. Really? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think collaboration is the second superpower. I think the third thing is just being able to communicate. So collaboration is important, but communication is also important. And whether that's communicating with people, communicating with yourself. One of the things I like to do very often is just blogging and not send the blog link out to anybody else. Just say, I just need to get these thoughts out of my head. I wrote them down in my notebook. I'm going to transfer them and if somebody else sees them, great, but I'm not doing this for another person. I'm doing this for myself. And so I think communication is super important, whether that's getting through a website, whether you have a YouTube channel, or I don't know if TikTok is big over in India like it is in the States. So TikTok videos, anything like that, blogging, like I said before, making music, making dances. I love it when kids make dance videos because it's so expressive. It's so kinesthetic and it's so human. Dance is a very human way to communicate. I don't know if you all, if you like to watch people dance. I really dig it. It was one of my favorite. I used to love going to a lot of the festivals in Taiwan because would always have the dragons and things. And you're like, all right, cool. And I would have friends. What are they doing? Oh, they're telling the story of this particular hero. Oh, that's really cool. Now I'm watching a story and watching this communication thing, and I'm learning something at the same way. So I think that using technology to communicate experiences to other people, super important, because it makes us all realize we're human too. And I think a lot of times there are a lot of people in our world who try to divide people. You're from here, I'm from here, we can't be friends, or you're from this part, I'm from this part, we can't be friends. I think there are a lot of things that are essentially human, communicating with other people, showing our feelings, expressing ourselves. I think that's one of the things that's so important.
Yeah, that's too cool. So any more questions from any one of you?
Sir, can I?
Yes,
Of course.
go ahead, please. Very little time is left. 8 minutes. Quickly.
Hi, sir. This is Naglakshmi. I am in 9th grader. My hobbies are reading books and playing games. What do you teach as part of technology to your students?
What, I didn't catch all your question. What do you teach?
What do you teach as part of technology to your students?
So what I teach is part of technology. So in terms of the course, I like to be able to have students use their imaginations. And so one of my big goals is to have like fuzzy ideas about teaching, and then kind of talk to kids and like, hey, yo, what you watch on YouTube? Oh, I watch videos about comedy. Oh, cool. What would it be like to like take a week and write jokes and then have to publish jokes? All right, that'd be fun. Let's go publish jokes for a week. Yeah, write jokes down. They got to be funny jokes. They can't be like boring jokes, but that's a way that one of the things that we do. All right, great. Kids write jokes in their notebooks, and then I say, you know what? A modern joke, a joke for your kind of your generation of people, like memes. Like memes are really funny. GIFs are really funny. Let's take your joke and let's digitize your joke, and then we show students how to do things like that. We do a lot of coding as well. So a lot of website building, a lot of games. So you say you like to play games. So a lot of, helping them build video games and helping kids realize video games are stories, right? Board games are stories. They all have a story behind them. It doesn't matter what games you're playing. Someone thought of that idea, had a story about it, and that's the game that you play right now, right? So really helping students see problems, see solutions. Sometimes we use the computers a lot. Sometimes we don't use the computers a lot. Sometimes we use just talking to people and saying, okay, yo, what are some things that you really hate about school? I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. Cool. I bring it back to the students. How can we, these are 5 things that kids say they hate about school. How can we solve these problems for students? We can do this, that. All right, cool. What do we need to solve those problems? We're going to need a video camera. We're going to need a green screen. We're going to need the principal. We're going to need to talk to this person who's the mayor of the town, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of the stuff that I do is really talking to students. I think it's important to, as a teacher, I know what I need to teach, and that's the important thing. But I think the most important thing is, what do students want to learn, right? What are kind of things you think are really cool about life that you think are important? And all of you said you are 9th grade, so you're just starting high school, which is really exciting. So you're just kind of coming into that point where you're going to see a lot of stuff in the next 4 years are going to make you think about, I wanted to be a this. Now I want to be this because I took this class, and now I'm seeing the world a little different. And I think that's the job of a great teacher, is to say, you know what's the coolest thing? I'm going to take you on this experience where you learn this thing that perhaps you didn't expect to be cool. And now I brought this to you, and like, oh my gosh, I just got an email from a former student. She just graduated from high school, so I feel old. But she was talking about 4th grade. I taught her in 3rd and 4th grade. And she was like, hey, Mr. Lang, I just graduated from high school. I'm going to college to be a graphic artist. And I remember we did all this art in your class, and I never wanted to be an artist, but after that class, hey, that's what I poured all my work into. And I was like, that's really cool. I can't draw, but we did a lot of drawing and sketching and things like that. And a lot of kids don't think they can draw until they have to do it. And they're, oh, this is really fun. And so one of the things I think, again, the things way that I create my class, or I scaffold my class, is to allow students to kind of explore different ways of knowing things, seeing things, and problem solving. So that's a great question.
So Mike, we have hardly 4 minutes time is left. So before we wind up this session, and could you please give a final message to many of these kids?
So final message is just keep going. And I think that the important things that I learned in elementary school from one of my teachers was life is a journey. And sometimes that journey is long, sometimes this journey is short, sometimes it's the best journey ever, sometimes it's not as good. But the journey is the important thing, and not being caught, enjoying the moment, but not being captured by the moment, right? Because you're in 9th grade, you're going to blink and you're going to be 30 and doing what you want, hopefully, or you might not be doing what you want. Realize you have the power to say, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to try different thing. And that's one of the important realizations I had as a college student. I never wanted to be a teacher. Never, ever. This was not one of the things with my career. I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a journalist. So you guys probably watch the news in the evening. I wanted to be the anchor, the person that tells you the news. That was my whole, when I was, from the time I was like 8 years old, I was like, I want to be on the news. I want to give the news or whatever. And so I went to college and I tried it. And I was like, nah, this is too weird. I don't like this. And I happened to go to Spain to live. And I went to Spain to live and I met so many interesting people from Italy, from Belgium, from Denmark, from Portugal, from Northern Africa. One of my best friends was from Brazil. And when you get around different people and they tell you different really interesting things and you kind of just soak up their ideas, you're like, hey, the world is really big. It's really cool that the world is that big. I need to go see more of this. I got to think of things in different ways. And so I went back to college and I changed my major. And I had a professor when I was graduating say that, hey, man, what you need to do is teach, because all these ideas that you have in your head, you just share these with other people. That's all teaching is sharing ideas and sharing problems and helping people figure out how to solve them. That's all school should be. Here's a problem, here's a solution. Here's a problem, solution. Did it work? Nope, we got to go back to the problem, figure it out again. And I think that's one of if you get a philosophy like that as you're going through life, here's a problem, how do I solve it? Here's a problem, how do I solve it? You look at things as solvable, as having solutions, as having a way to figure it out. And as long as you look at things as there's a way to figure it out, I think you can be very successful no matter what you do. It's looking at a problem saying this, someone else, that's the other cool thing about technology. There's no problem that you're going to have that someone else didn't have.